than a regular trust that you would.
About to tell you right now. Hello, everybody. Well, okay. I'm going to explain to you guys how our society works. At least here in the United States. I'll give you a quick version of how this trust works. Everybody wants to know how the trust works. You know, I was writing a comment to this guy, and I'm like, every time I have to sit and explain this over and over again. So I'm going to clearly explain it to you now. You've heard about the SES2EKV trust. You've heard about the Social Security trust. You've heard about all the sovereign citizen stuff. Fortunately, you know, a lot of people are just confused. They're onto a lot of understanding of the law, different parts of the law. But here's what you guys don't get. Okay, Social Security, HR 7260, the Social Security Act. It is a voluntary pledge bailment chattel contract. It transfers ownership of all of your assets to the Social Security trust estate. It's a system of the system of Social Security. It is entitlement by name, and it acts as a uniform system of governing bankruptcy. The proof to it acting as a uniform system of governing bankruptcy is you're free to go look up the bankruptcy speech of Congressman Trafficant, who in Congress explained that they are all trustees of the largest bankruptcy in history. He mentioned the House Joint Resolution to move off of the gold standard. And this was, it was historic because it was undisputed. Out of all of the politicians up there, after he had the conversation, no one disagreed with him. So that affirms, that's basically an affirmation by Congress that we are in a bankruptcy and that what he said was true. Okay? So for a lot of people that have wondered that. And more so it's a uniform. What it is it acts as a uniform system of governing bankruptcy. Back in these times, they did not want a democracy. They wanted to have a monarchy. And their way of figuring this out and people getting the best of both worlds was they kept the original Constitution, and then what they did was by creating this bankruptcy situation, they can then enact the bankruptcy title, which is that they can create any system, any uniform system of governing bankruptcy. Well, the uniform system of governing bankruptcy they decided to create was a pledge bailment congressional monarchy system. So what they did is they have to follow rules. Okay, so like there's rules. They want to be like correct. So one of the rules they have to follow is like a Mosaic law. One of the rules is that you shall surely place a king over thee, one of your brethren. No foreigner may be king over you. The loophole is that when the king's away, a foreigner can be assigned as what's called his in-chief. And what the definition of in-chief is from Black's Law Dictionary is it's chief in the absence of the king holding tenure in capite. Why would they do this? Well, the reason why they did it was to create what's called, and you can look this up online, an imperial presidency. Okay? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he's the one, him in the 73rd and 74th Congress, who created a number of, passed a number of legislation through Congress that was all more of like sleeper acts timed to activate, you know, which is really kind of what they're doing. And I'll give an example of that. When Social Security first came out, it came out with the cards. It was being sold as an equity-bearing pension bond, as being an employee or an employer of the Social Security Board, and that's exactly what it is. Everybody is, for the most part, either an employee or an employer. And furthermore, in the beginning, these cards, when they came out, they were not capitalized names. Then they said at the bottom it had listed employee where you undersign your name. And you undersign the same given name that you were given in birth, which is not capitalized. And then what happened was they were scheduled to make payouts on the pensions in 1942. And what they did was they did two things. Number one was they made modifications to the Pledge of Allegiance. And when you make modifications and it gets reapproved, people think they're just modifying something. No, but what they're actually doing also is they're reaffirming it. So a pledge bailment, the definition of pledge is a bailment of chattel. We're going to take a look at this. A bailment, let's take a look. Here we go. A bailment of chattel as security for a debt or other obligation without involving transfer of title. The chattel so delivered. But think about this. It's the contract incidental to such a bailment. The contract incidental to such a bailment. The Pledge of Allegiance, because it was...
So what is the difference between a private trust...
I'm about to tell you, brother. So, again, the Pledge of Allegiance is the incidental to H.R. 7260, the Social Security Act, which is a pledge bailment. The other thing they did before any pensions were paid was they started capitalizing the names on the cards. This is an ancient art of capitis diminutio maxima, which is a Roman law. It's the maximum loss of status. You can locate it and fact check it in Black's Law Dictionary. But this is what's happening. So what they do is they bankrupt you. After you're bankrupt, they create a new deal or a new social party rent contract, and the social party rent contract entitles an indigenous king unknowingly, because no one can fathom that that's what it is that they would be intending on doing, but that was what they intended on doing. Now, this can be proven for a number, and there's so many things that just tie into this. It's just horrible. Number one is there's an act in Social Security called the Palms Regulation. This act wasn't around when Social Security cards first came out. This is an act after the fact, a post-establishment regulation rule. In Palms Regulation, it says that middle names are not included as part of the Social Security card. And I say stubs because that's what it is. It's a stub. And this is because our social party rank contract, it has to adhere to the letter of the law. And that means the definition of a word at the time that the law is established. A middle name, if you look up its definition, a middle name is defined as qualities. And qualities is defined as a social rank in aristocracy. And what they're basically doing is when you write up contracts and you agree to have your name entitled, which is what the contract states. It states entitlement. And you have to read H.R. 7260. You have to read your social rank contract. But it states that it is entitlement. And since the name it was entitled in the beginning, that means titles of nobilities went out and were established in this uniform system of governing bankruptcy. Now, when a king by name means the first person with the middle name King to get a Social Security card was actually a king. He didn't know he was a king. He was just entered into employment with the Social Security Congressional Act with Congress to have that name entitlement. And immediately, President Roosevelt, who had already served for 2 terms as president-in-chief, knowing the definition, I'm sure, of his entitlement, went right ahead and claimed in-chief status in the absence of the king, while he waited until he turned to be 65 so that he can redeem what was being set up to be pledged for him. The reason why they did this is because if a lot of people say that believe that Social Security is a bunch of individual trust accounts. Okay, this makes no sense. And you can look this up. We're in what's called cess2ek use. Okay, you can't be in cestuike use of millions and millions of cestuike V accounts. Social Security is designed to transfer these cestuike V accounts and these bonds waiting to be activated, and to transfer them over to this king by name, held by tenure in chief of his tenure in capite by his in chief, and it's all to put them all in one sole trust to be the administration of. And that's where civil law set aside, and why we've moved to administrative law. So I hope this helps. Download this, study this stuff. I hope you guys are learning some stuff. Yes, we're suffering of capitis minitus. Yes, they know it's about to fail, and yes, that's what's happening. Currently, 4+ billion capitalized people worldwide have agreed and have been tricked into pledge bailment, chattel. To be chattel. And they're also changing the dictionary words. When you look this up, this is an old posting of the dictionary. Now it says something else. So you make sure you get unabridged dictionaries from the date, and legal lexicons from the date established of these laws. Start comprehending your contract. You have an indigenous king who was tricked, who I'm sure wants to kick some butt as much as you do. Have a good day.
So what is the difference between a private trust and a regular trust that you would go to a lawyer and get?
One's owned by the king, and unless you're emancipated, or there's some type of decree of deliver, you are in this pledge bailment contract. Go get adult emancipation. Have a good day. I'll leave you with this. Bye.